Hey there again, AP Environmental Science. Here we go with sustainability, economics, and equity. So we've looked at the economic system and the roles of natural capital as human capital. This understanding provides us with some tools that we need to evaluate some different options for monitoring and managing human systems in a way that will result into like the least amount of harm to the natural environment. Regulatory tools are also used to bring about least environmental harm. Ultimately, the goal is freedom from exposure to environmental harm and for all the people of the world. This is the final topic that we will talk about for this unit, environmental equity. Many different techniques and approaches that use to influence how we treat the environment. Sometimes laws and regulations help achieve a certain outcome. Before examining some of the major laws and regulations in the United States and in the world in general, we must familiarize ourselves with the important factors that shape the way that nations approach policymaking in general and how people basically look at the world. An environmental worldwide worldview is basically a worldview that encompasses how one thinks of the world, how the world works, and how one views his or her role in the world, and what one believes is the proper environmental behavior. I like that in this definition, proper. There are three types of environmental worldviews that kind of dominate the human system. They're called human-centered, life-centered, and then earth-centered. The anthropocentric worldview is a worldwide view that focuses on human welfare and well-being. In other words, nature has this instrumental value to provide for our needs, and there are variations on this human-centered, worldwide view. Those who favor a free market approach to economies are optimistic about the results of this unlimited competition and resource situation, and they also want minimal government intervention. The planetary management school, while optimistic that we can solve resource depletion issues with technology and innovation, basically believes that nature requires protection and that the government interventions is only sometimes necessary. Stewardship is a subset of this anthropocentric worldview, and it supports the careful and responsible management and care of Earth and its resources. The stewardship school of thought is considered although it's a natural, worldwide recognized like Earth protection type of view, it's also our ethical responsibility to basically be good managers of Mother Earth. Biocentric worldview is a life-centered and holds on to humans and just one of the many species on Earth. Although, Earth has an intrinsic value, at the same time, this worldview also considers that the ecosystem in which humans live in has instrumental value. There are various positions within life-centered approach. Some consider that it's our obligation to protect a species, and others consider that it's our obligation to protect every single living creature. The ecocentric worldview is earth-centered. A little more easier to explain here. It places equal value on all living things, all living organisms, and basically ecosystems where we live. And it demands that we consider nature free of any association with our own existence. So this worldview takes various forms. The Environmental Wisdom School, for example, believes that since resources on Earth are very limited, that we should adapt our needs to nature rather than adapt nature to our needs. The Deep Ecology School, meanwhile, insists that humans have no right to interfere with nature and its biodiversity. Our worldviews determine the decisions that we make about our lives, how we work, where we work, and the way we treat the planet. And environmental worldviews can play a significant role in the policies that nations make when you're talking about considering how a government's going to implement these policies. A nation that operates on an anthropocentric worldview might not concern itself with how economic activity is affecting the natural world. And a country with an ecocentric worldview might carefully regulate economic activity in order to just protect the ecosystem and the species within it. It's in practice, the policies and regulations of most nations represent a variety of worldviews, depending on a particular nation and the specific resource or region of the biosphere that's being affected.